Stop eating healthy whole grains for breakfast if your blood sugar is out of control. I know that sounds like I'm contradicting everything your doctor has told you, but after 30 years in medicine, what I've seen in the research and in my patients has completely changed how I think about blood sugar management. And today, I'm going to share what most physicians simply don't have time to tell you in a 15-minute office visit. Here's a number that should stop you cold. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 37 million Americans have diabetes, and another 96 million, that's 1 in 3 adults, have prediabetes. But here's the part that genuinely disturbs me. The CDC estimates that more than 80% of people with prediabetes have absolutely no idea they have it. They're walking around, eating foods they believe are healthy, watching their energy decline, their vision blur, their feet go numb, and nobody told them why. Today we're counting down the 6 most powerful foods, ranked from helpful to genuinely extraordinary, that clinical research shows can lower blood sugar fast and keep it stable long term. And I promise you, by the time we get to number 1, you are going to be shocked. Most people have never connected this food to blood sugar at all. It's sitting in your kitchen right now, and you've probably been throwing part of it away. But before we dive in, I want to ask you something personal. Leave a comment below and tell me your age and whether you've been told your blood sugar is high or your A1C is creeping up. I read every single comment on this channel, every one, and your story matters to me. The conversations in the comment section of this channel have shaped the topics we cover, and today's video came directly from questions many of you have been asking for months. Now let's get into it, starting with number 6. Number 6 is apple cider vinegar. And before you roll your eyes and think this is folk medicine, let me show you what the science actually says. A landmark study published in the journal Diabetes Care, one of the most respected peer-reviewed journals in metabolic medicine, found that taking 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar before a high carbohydrate meal reduced post-meal blood sugar levels by nearly 34% in people with insulin resistance. That is not a trivial number. That is the kind of reduction some medications struggle to achieve. Here's why it works and why it works especially well for people over 60. The active compound in apple cider vinegar is acetic acid. Think of acetic acid like a traffic controller standing at the entrance of a busy glucose highway. It slows the rate at which your stomach empties its contents into the small intestine, which means the sugar from your meal enters your bloodstream more gradually. Instead of a flood, you get a steady stream. For aging bodies specifically, this matters enormously because after the age of 65, the beta cells in your pancreas, the cells responsible for producing insulin, begin to function less efficiently. Research from the American Diabetes Association suggests that beta cell mass and function can decline by up to 40% in older adults with type 2 diabetes. When your insulin response is already slower, the last thing you want is a sugar spike hitting your bloodstream all at once. I had a patient, Margaret, 71 years old, a retired school teacher from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. When she first came to see me, her fasting blood sugar was consistently above 160, and she was terrified of going on medication. I suggested she try 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar diluted in a large glass of water about 20 minutes before her 2 largest meals of the day. Within 6 weeks, her fasting glucose had dropped to 118. She told me it was the first dietary change she'd ever made that she could actually feel working. The practical preparation is simple. Always dilute it, never drink it straight, because the acidity can damage tooth enamel and irritate your esophagus. Mix 2 tablespoons in 8 to 12 ounces of water. For enhanced effect, pair it with a small amount of cinnamon, which brings us synergy. research from the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics shows that combining acetic acid with cinnamon's active compound, cinnamaldehyde, creates a compounding effect on insulin sensitivity that is greater than either substance alone. Number 5 is fatty fish, specifically wild-caught salmon, mackerel, and sardines. And most people are completely unaware of how powerfully these foods affect blood sugar regulation. We tend to think of fish as a heart food, a protein food, but the omega-3 fatty acids in fatty fish, EPA and eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, do something remarkable inside your cells. They reduce the chronic low-grade inflammation that is frankly one of the most underappreciated drivers of insulin resistance in older adults. Here's the connection most doctors don't explain clearly. Inflammation doesn't just make your joints hurt. Chronic inflammation interferes directly with insulin signaling at the cellular level. When inflammatory cytokines, small signaling proteins, are circulating in elevated levels, they essentially jam the lock that insulin uses to open cells and let glucose in. A study from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, tracking over 90,000 participants, found that regular consumption of omega-3 rich fish was associated with a 24% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to those who rarely ate fish. After 70, the body's ability to manage inflammation is significantly compromised. The mitochondria, think of these as the tiny power plants inside each of your cells, become less efficient with age. They produce more oxidative waste, and this feeds the inflammatory cycle. Omega-3 fatty acids help calm this process at the source. Eat fatty fish at least 3 times per week. A 4 to 6 ounce serving is ideal. Baking or poaching is preferable to frying, which adds inflammatory omega-6 fats that directly counteract the benefit you're trying to achieve. For synergy, eat your salmon with a generous serving of leafy greens dressed with olive oil. The fat-soluble nutrients in the greens are absorbed far more efficiently alongside the healthy fats in the fish. And olive oil itself contributes additional anti-inflammatory polyphenols. Number 4 is a food that has been criminally misrepresented for decades. Eggs. Specifically, whole eggs, including the yolk. For years, seniors were told to avoid egg yolks because of cholesterol concerns. But a comprehensive review published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, analyzing data from over a dozen randomized controlled trials, found that whole egg consumption did not adversely affect cardiovascular risk markers in healthy individuals. And more relevant to our conversation today, research from the University of Connecticut showed that people who ate whole eggs for breakfast had significantly better blood sugar control throughout the morning compared to those who ate a carbohydrate-based breakfast of equivalent calories. Why does this matter so much for older adults? It comes back to something called anabolic resistance. After the age of 65, your muscles become increasingly resistant to the signals that would normally trigger protein synthesis and muscle growth. This is critical to blood sugar because muscle tissue is the primary site of glucose disposal in the body. When you have more functional muscle mass, your body has more places to put the glucose that's circulating in your bloodstream. Whole eggs provide a complete amino acid profile. All 9 essential amino acids in highly bioavailable form that supports muscle protein synthesis even in aging bodies dealing with anabolic resistance. 2 to 3 whole eggs at breakfast, prepared without excessive added fat. The synergy pairing here is turmeric. Adding a quarter teaspoon of turmeric to your scrambled eggs provides curcumin, a compound studied extensively at the National Institutes of Health for its ability to improve insulin sensitivity by activating AMPK, a cellular enzyme that acts like a metabolic master switch, helping your body use glucose more efficiently. The black pepper in your shaker isn't just for flavor. Adding a pinch increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%, according to research from Baylor University Medical Center. Now, before we get to the top 3, the ones that can make the most dramatic difference, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please take 5 seconds right now and hit that subscribe button and click the bell for notifications. We publish evidence-based content specifically for people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who want real answers, not watered-down advice. And if this video has already given you something useful, a thumbs up takes 1 second and it helps us reach other seniors who need this information. Okay, back to the list. Number 3 is one of the most studied foods in the entire field of metabolic medicine, and yet it remains chronically underused by the people who need it most: berries. Specifically, blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries, all of which have been the subject of serious, rigorous clinical investigation. Researchers at the University of Michigan published a study showing that blueberry bioactives, a category of compounds that includes anthocyanins, the pigments that give berries their deep color, improved insulin sensitivity by 22% over a 6-week period in obese, non-diabetic adults with high fasting insulin levels. The researchers specifically noted that these effects were comparable in magnitude to some pharmaceutical interventions. Let me say that again: comparable to medication achieved through food alone. The mechanism is elegant. Anthocyanins act as powerful antioxidants that protect the beta cells of the pancreas from oxidative damage. Remember those beta cells I mentioned earlier? The ones that produce insulin and decline with age? Berries help preserve them. They also improve the function of something called GLUT4 transporters. GLUT4 is essentially a glucose doorway built into your muscle cells. When insulin signals the body to clear glucose from the blood, GLUT4 transporters move to the surface of muscle cells and open up to let glucose in. In insulin-resistant individuals, this signaling is impaired. Anthocyanins help restore GLUT4 function. For seniors specifically, berries offer an additional advantage. Their relatively low glycemic index blueberries score around 53 on the glycemic index scale, means they satisfy a sweet craving without triggering the glucose spike associated with other sweet foods. 1 cup of mixed berries per day is the research-supported dose. Frozen berries are equally effective as fresh. The freezing process does not destroy anthocyanins, making this accessible and affordable year-round. The synergy pairing for berries is Greek yogurt, specifically full-fat, plain Greek yogurt with no added sugar. The protein and fat in the yogurt further blunt the glycemic response, and the probiotic cultures in the yogurt independently support insulin sensitivity through the gut microbiome. A study from King's College London found that participants with a more diverse gut microbiome had significantly better blood glucose regulation after meals. Berries plus Greek yogurt is one of the most complete metabolic breakfasts that nutrition science has identified. I think of Robert, 74, a retired electrician from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who came to me frustrated and exhausted. He'd been managing prediabetes for 3 years with only modest dietary changes. His A1C sat stubbornly at 6.1. He started eating a cup of mixed berries with full-fat Greek yogurt every morning and made no other changes. 4 months later, his A1C was 5.7. His primary care physician was so surprised, she called him to double check he hadn't started any new medications. He hadn't. Number 2, this is where I need you to lean in, because what I'm about to tell you is one of the most significant and most overlooked insights in modern diabetes nutrition research. The food is avocado. I can hear some of you thinking, avocado for blood sugar? That's a fat food. Exactly right. It is a fat food, and that is precisely why it works. Here's what a remarkable study from Penn State University found. When participants consumed 1 avocado per day as part of their regular diet for 12 weeks, they showed significant reductions in fasting insulin, along with meaningful improvements in insulin sensitivity and a reduction in belly fat, specifically the visceral fat that wraps around internal organs and is one of the most potent drivers of insulin resistance in the human body. The visceral fat reduction was 1.6 times greater in the avocado group than in the control group eating equivalent calories without avocado. The reason avocado is so powerful for older adults specifically comes down to 3 intersecting mechanisms. First, the monounsaturated fats, oleic acid in particular, directly improve the fluidity and responsiveness of cell membranes, making insulin receptors more sensitive. Think of insulin receptors like a rusty lock. Monounsaturated fats essentially oil that lock, making it easier for insulin to turn the key and open the cell to glucose. Second, avocado is extraordinarily rich in potassium, more per gram than a banana, contrary to popular belief. And potassium plays a direct regulatory role in insulin secretion from the pancreas. Third, avocado contains a unique compound called avocatin B, which researchers at the University of Guelph in Canada identified as capable of inhibiting incomplete oxidation in skeletal muscle, a cellular process strongly linked to insulin resistance. After the age of 75, the body's ability to regulate intracellular fat metabolism declines by an estimated 35%, making the visceral fat problem progressively worse with each passing year. Avocado directly addresses this deterioration. Half to 1 whole avocado per day is the studied dose. Eat it at lunch if possible, when your insulin sensitivity is at its daily peak. Slice it over eggs, spread it on grain-free toast, or eat it simply with a squeeze of lemon. The synergy tip here is tomatoes. Tomatoes are rich in lycopene, and a study published in Nutrition Reviews confirmed that pairing lycopene-rich foods with fat-containing foods dramatically increases lycopene absorption, and lycopene itself has been independently associated with reduced inflammatory markers that contribute to insulin resistance. Classic guacamole, as it turns out, is almost scientifically perfect. Dorothy was 68 years old, a grandmother of 7 from Scottsdale, Arizona, when she came to see me. She had been eating what she thought was a heart-healthy, low-fat diet for a decade. Her blood sugar was worsening every year despite her best efforts. She was desperate and frightened. When I explained the role of quality fats in insulin sensitivity, she was skeptical but willing. She added half an avocado to her lunch every day. Within 3 months, her fasting blood sugar had dropped from 142 to 109. She told me she felt more energetic than she had in 5 years. She also mentioned, with some embarrassment, that she'd been throwing away the avocados at the grocery store bin for years because she thought they were too fatty. That moment breaks my heart a little because it represents a failure of medical communication that affects millions of people. And now, number 1. The single most powerful, most scientifically validated, most surprising food on this entire list. And I told you at the beginning, this is something sitting in your kitchen right now, and you've likely been discarding the most important part of it. The food is the onion, specifically raw onion, and more specifically, the outer layers and the papery skin that almost everyone peels away and throws in the trash. Let me share what the research says, because this genuinely astonished me when I first encountered it. A study published in the journal Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine found that consuming 100 grams, roughly half a medium onion, of fresh raw onion per day reduced fasting blood sugar levels by an average of 89 milligrams per deciliter in participants with type 1 diabetes, and by 40 milligrams per deciliter in those with type 2 diabetes. Those are numbers that rival some pharmaceutical interventions. Separate research from the University of Southern Queensland found that onion extract concentrated from the skin and outer layers that people typically discard inhibited DPP4, an enzyme that breaks down GLP-1, one of your body's most important natural blood sugar regulating hormones. You may have heard of GLP-1. It's the very hormone that the blockbuster diabetes drugs like semaglutide are designed to mimic. Onion skin does this naturally. The active compounds responsible are quercetin and sulfur compounds, specifically S-methylcysteine sulfoxide, which has been shown in animal and early human studies to stimulate insulin secretion directly and improve glucose uptake in muscle and liver tissue. Quercetin is also one of the most potent natural inhibitors of alpha-glucosidase, the enzyme in your small intestine that breaks complex carbohydrates down into glucose. When you slow alpha-glucosidase, you slow the rate at which dietary carbohydrates become blood glucose, and this is the exact mechanism of action of the diabetes medication acarbose. For aging bodies, this is particularly profound. After 65, the gut lining becomes more permeable and carbohydrate digestion becomes less regulated, leading to more dramatic post-meal glucose spikes. Quercetin acts directly at the site of carbohydrate breakdown in the intestine, intercepting the glucose before it ever enters your bloodstream in a surge. Here's the critical practical point. The quercetin content of the outer 2 to 3 dry layers of an onion is dramatically higher than the inner flesh. This is the part you've been discarding. You can steep these papery outer layers in boiling water for 10 minutes to make an onion skin tea. This is consumed regularly as a medicinal preparation in parts of Eastern Europe and South Korea, where rates of type 2 diabetes are historically lower than in the United States. 2 cups of this tea per day provides a meaningful therapeutic dose of quercetin. Alternatively, use the skins in homemade broths and soups, letting them steep through the entire cooking process before straining. For the onion flesh itself, eat it raw whenever possible. Cooking reduces quercetin content by up to 30%. Add raw sliced red onion, which has the highest quercetin concentration of any onion variety, to salads, sandwiches, or alongside your eggs in the morning. The synergy pairing is olive oil. Research from the journal Food Chemistry confirmed that olive oil's polyphenols act synergistically with quercetin to enhance its bioavailability. And olive oil independently reduces the glycemic index of any meal it accompanies by slowing gastric emptying, just as apple cider vinegar does. Eat half a raw red onion per day. Save and steep the skins. Make this a habit, not an experiment. I need you to hear something now, and I mean it with complete sincerity. The people watching this video are people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who are not ready to surrender. You are not looking for someone to tell you to just accept this diagnosis and take more pills. You are looking for the truth, the evidence, and the practical steps that give you back control. And that is exactly what nutrition science offers when it's communicated honestly. I have watched patients in their late 70s reverse insulin resistance that their doctors told them was permanent. I have watched people in their 80s reduce their A1C from diabetic to normal range through nothing but consistent, targeted nutritional changes. I have watched men and women who had quietly begun to lose hope discover that their bodies still respond, that biology is not destiny, and that the years ahead of them can be years of energy, clarity, and genuine vitality, rather than gradual diminishment. It is never too late. The research is unambiguous on this point. Metabolic function responds to nutritional intervention at every age. Your independence, your ability to live in your own home, to travel, to hold your grandchildren and keep up with them, to wake up in the morning without dread, all of it is connected to how you manage your blood sugar. And every one of these 6 foods gives you a real, evidence-based tool to do exactly that. The full scientific references for every study mentioned in this video are linked in the description below. I encourage you to read them, share them with your doctor, and make informed decisions in partnership with your medical team. Nothing in this video is a substitute for personalized medical advice, but this information is real, it is documented, and you deserve to have it. If this video helped you today, please subscribe to this channel right now and hit the bell so you never miss a new video. We are here every week with research-backed content designed specifically for people who refuse to accept that aging means surrendering their health. And leave me a comment. Tell me your age. Tell me which of these 6 foods surprised you the most. And tell me whether you've ever tried onion skin tea. I read every comment, every single one. I'll see you in the next video.